One of the most common questions I get on my Instagram comments, YouTube comments, and my DMs is how can I get a physically 3D printed action figure from you? And I keep disappointing people because 3D printing all of these action figures is not feasible for me. Now I understand that not everyone has a 3D printer or the space to have a 3D printer at home, or some people just do not want the resins or the potentially harmful 3D printing materials at home either. Some people may just be interested in the finished product rather than being forced into the all-consuming hobby of 3D printing. So when PCBWay reached out to me about sponsoring this video where I test out their 3D printing services, I jumped at the chance to see what they were all about. So that naturally brings us to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay is a prototyping and manufacturing service that can help you prototype your PCBs as their primary offering. However, for us action figure enthusiasts, PCBWay also provides an excellent 3D printing service that allows you to print with a wide range of materials like PLA, ABS, resins, and even metal. They also employ various 3D printing technologies such as FDM and SLA, which are able to get us amazing 3D printed results for our quality and strength needs. Quotes are provided almost instantly, and their quality control standards are what impress me the most. So if you have a need to 3D print something, but buying a 3D printer is not suitable for you, or you want to see what a 3D printer can do without having to commit to an expensive 3D printing machine, PCBWay has a solution for you. Please check out PCBWay and their services from the link in the description below. Now back to the video. So to start the process of uploading my project, I reached out to the team at PCBWay. The team was super helpful in answering all of my questions and helping me set up my order. They have a wide range of offerings, so I was a little bit confused about what materials I should print with. So when I reached out to PCBWay, they suggested that I use their UTR 3000 resin offering. Based on the description on their website, this material has high dimensional accuracy, a smooth surface, and is suitable for production of anime models. So I trusted their recommendation and went with the UTR 3000. I also came across a small hurdle during the ordering process because I was used to exporting all of my parts individually to send to my 3D printer. However, there is a file upload limit at PCBWay, and that did not allow me to upload the many individual parts I had. So I spoke to the team at PCBWay and they suggested exporting the multiple parts in one file, which actually worked out a treat. So once that was done and all my files were uploaded, they went into a short review phase where they were evaluating the files to see if there were any issues like thin walls or small parts. So that took about 2 days before they were reviewed and ready for payments. The total price for the parts I sent them that would complete 2 whole action figures with all the accessories was about $214.14 USD, which I think for all my parts is reasonable. Another cool thing about PCBWay is that they have live tracking functionality on their website. So that meant that once the printing process had started, I could track the entire printing journey. So the whole process for me took about 4 to 5 days in printing, and I was eagerly tracking the whole journey the whole time. And now all we have to do is wait for the printed parts to arrive. The printed parts are finally here, and as I saw the first few parts, the first thing I noticed is how the color of the parts are very flesh tone. Many ideas immediately started flooding into my head, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself. I started unboxing and getting all the parts out of the packaging, and boy oh boy, the parts were packaged really well. Layers of protective paper covering my parts so they were safe through transit. However, because of the number of parts I had in there, it was a lengthy unboxing process. I'm super pleased with the quality of these prints and how clean everything looks. The flesh color of these parts look amazing, so my immediate thought was I should have done a base action figure body with this resin. However, as I inspected the parts more, I did not find any other issues. There were some tips of the action figure ears which were chipped off a little bit, but because I had so many different head options and 2 of everything, that was hardly an issue for me, so that kind of worked out well. Like I usually do, I then started arranging my parts according to the pieces, and I realized that I had forgotten to include the neck joint and adapter in my print request, which was completely my fault. So yeah, I had some spare parts lying around luckily, so I was not blocked from making progress. Again, just look at these parts. Like, the color is amazing for a base action figure buck body. Like, that's immediately what I thought. Not only are these prints clean and the layer lines are barely visible, but these parts feel very sturdy and the material does not grind on itself, which is absolutely a must for action figure parts. While assembling the figure, I was hoping that my old trick of heating up the parts to make them flexible enough to fit would work, and luckily it did. I started assembling the parts like I usually do, and I did not have too many issues with the assembly. The heated parts would flex away and the cavities would easily accept the joints, so that worked out a treat. And I only ran into an issue with one of the wrist joints where I heated the part up, and during its flexible heated stage I put a little too much pressure on it and it kind of ripped. So luckily again I had some spares and I had some additional wrist joints in the PCBWay box, and after that minor setback on what is a very small piece of printed material, I had the whole figure set up. So for this figure, I did get a whole heap of additional accessories printed as well. So we've got this other set of chest piece that will basically give you like the oval symbol kind of piece there. We've also got the capsule belt instead of the pouch belt that's on the figure right now. So that's an alternate swap part. You also get a few additional head types. So these are the only issues I had with the print. So you can see that the head is the ear is a bit rounded off here, but the head came out like looking really clean, and I think that it captures all the details it needs to. Just with the tips here, it was rounded off a little bit. I don't know if it was my print or my parts or if it was the printing, but yeah, I don't know what it was, because the long ears kind of look alright. So these are both neutral faces in the short and the long ears, and the long ears printed well, but then yeah, with the short ears they're a little bit stubbed at the end there. We've also got the angry head sculpts, so same issue with the tip kind of rounding out a little bit. I don't know why that is. So even with the long-eared one for this one, it's a little bit rounded out. Might have been in transit because there was a lot of shakes or movement or whatever. But yeah, other than that, all the details are captured well, and I don't know, it's just weird how that kind of failed a little bit here. There's a little bit of a chip. And with the other heads, which are the rebreather heads, I think they turned out pretty cool. The ears don't really have too much of an issue for this one, which is nice. I mean, there's a little bit of a chip here, running out here. Other than that, they look alright. There are some support marks still, so I might need to clean that up a little bit. But other than that, it's captured all the details it needs to. We also have a few swappable cape cowl kind of parts. So this one can be replaced onto the figure here. So all I need to do is basically pull that up, and then there are two tabs at the bottom, so it should fit right in, and that's how you swap them out. I personally, for some versions of the figure, really like the pointy one with long ears for the head. That I think looks like a really cool combo. But yeah, for some other storylines that this character is in, this kind of fits that purpose a little bit more. So I mean, it's either or. It's swappable parts, so you can kind of use whatever you want and then get like different varying versions of the character. For the hands, we also get two fist hands, and then we have two kind of angry emoting hands. We have two karate chop, or I don't know, like just action kind of hands. And we've got the more kind of neutrally, kind of slightly reaching out kind of hand as well here. So the other set is on the figure here. And also we have this hand with the grappling hook. And we also have this accessory for the figure, and also just a grappling hook on its own. So for the articulation on this figure, let's first look at the head. The head can go forward, that far back and up, and he can also pivot side to side without any issues, and he can swivel without any issues as well. With the shoulders, it can go all the way around without any issues. Can go up about that much with the butterfly joint kind of engaged as well, and the butterfly kind of gives you that little bit of additional butterfly movement. The biceps swivel full 360, double joint in the elbows, and the wrist can swivel, and depending on how you have it configured, it can go up and down, so it's pretty easy. I do want to make it so that there's a little bit of a grip here, so it stays onto the figure and doesn't just plop out, because currently I'm depending fully on friction holding parts, and because I overexpose my resin prints, it holds a little bit better. But I think if I add like that small knob at the bottom, it will just make it easier to stay on and possibly easy to swap as well, but I just need to make sure that it's not too big. All right, so with the torso, he can pivot all the way around like that and like that, no issues at all. He can crunch forward about that far forward, and he can extend back about that far back, and there is some movement left and right as well. The bottom torso doesn't really do much unless I force it, so I'm not going to force it too much because it's sitting within like the belt piece. With the hips, I'll just get the hand out of the way. The hips can go all the way out, and with some of the drop down, it can go down. I like how everything feels tight, and I don't really feel like it's gonna break, so I'm happy to handle it without like too much of a worry, which is good. I think the resin material is pretty decent, so it can drop down that much and kick that far up, which is pretty decent. This figure also has double jointed knees, and it feels pretty good. There's a lot of friction there, so it's not going anywhere. And we also have some ankle joints which will go up and down, which will swivel around, and there is toe articulation as well. But cool, yeah, that's the joints on this figure, and I think that this material is strong and durable enough for me to not worry about like articulating it too much. Hasn't really been getting loose as I play with it, and I think that it's a pretty cool looking figure, especially with the flesh tones. I just really like how the flesh tones came out. So ultimately, I am impressed with the parts I received from PCBWay. The figure turned out amazing, the strength and the durability of the material is also amazing, and the quality of the prints are excellent. I have to admit that I was not entirely optimistic about how this would turn out at the beginning, but as I continued to chat with the team at PCBWay and went through the process of getting the files printed, the confidence just kept growing. The parts are genuinely sturdy and hold a high amount of details. There is no grinding or dusting of the material, so this is an absolute must for any action figure. And I only had one issue where the wrist peg kind of broke, but that was an extremely smart part and I pushed too hard during assembly, so that was kind of my fault anyway. Other than that, the figure turned out great, and again, I just can't help but think that a base body in this resin would be absolutely amazing. I did a few shots of this action figure next to the GW Toys body and the V Toys body for comparisons, so you can see how this resin would be perfect for this base action figure body that I was talking about earlier. But I think, yeah, it's just a great comparison, and if I do a base body, it would be really nice. So that got me chatting to PCBWay on how I can make my figure available to be purchased as a fully printed base body, and I'm just working on that body now. So once I'm done, I can upload it to PCBWay, and all of you can get your hands on it if you wish to. Once that is ready and available, I will let you know on my Instagram page, so stay tuned for that. Once again, this has been such a fun journey, and I am pleased to conclude that this 3D printing service from PCBWay will 100% work with action figures. Thank you again, PCBWay, for sponsoring this video. I hope this was informative and enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.